fucker. Welcome to another episode of talking about crazy shit that I can't believe that we are having conversations about. So, this is going to be discussing more child sex trafficking, more deviant behavior that is threatening the fabric of our youth, the next generation of children, the next generation, who's being brought up in this ecosystem. I'm going to just get right into it and let him start to explain.
California Assembly Committee blocks bill that could have sent human traffickers to kids to prison for life. And if you go a little lower, California got the Golden State Lower House Committee, Senate Bill 14, which would make human trafficking for children a serious felony. The serious felony charges under California law currently include murder, rape, and any other crime which may incur in the death penalty or life sentence in the state prison. However,
so I haven't actually seen this. I don't know if he's going to get into it. Not only did they shit can this measure, but my understanding is, I'll look this up, but there's a law that was passed that allows for 10-year age gap between, so you could have a 14-year-old and a 24-year-old, and the judge can say that that's not a crime. So there is a creep here. They're trying to just slowly move the goal, move the chains, and it's fine. It's not a big deal. We're just not passing this. Oh, we're just, creating so the judge can have some discretion, and until they roll out full-fledged. They're just getting you used to it. Start to accept it. Start to tolerate it. And we'll go from there.
Instead of upping the ante on child traffickers, the California Assembly Public Safety Committee nuked the measure on Tuesday. How wild is that? And they don't just nuke it on any week. They nuke it on the week of the movie Sound of Freedom coming out that beats Harrison Ford's movie, Indiana Jones. And it was it's just it's not a real story. It's just a bunch of different things, inaccurate facts. What is a Newsom thinking when stuff like this is passing in his state? How do you sell this? How do you sell this to parents?
I don't think he cares, because California is so ridiculously Democrat that he's never going to be held accountable. But I mean, Patrick, you have really broad-based appeal. I encourage the next Democrat you have on the show, just ask them a very simple question, which is I know you hate.
Here we go. This is the details. California Governor Gavin Newsom Friday signed a law that would give judges say whether to list someone as a sex offender having oral or anal sex with a minor. The bill would expand the discretion currently granted judges in statutory rape cases and was promoted as bringing fairness under law in the LGBTQ defendants. The current law, in place for decades, permits judges to decide whether a man should be placed on the sex offender registry if he had voluntary intercourse with someone 14 to 17 years old and was no more than 10 years older than the person. But that discretion only applied to a man who had vaginal intercourse. The new change permits judges to use that same discretion when the case involves voluntary or oral or anal sex. The measure won't apply when a minor is under 14, when the age gap is larger than 10 years, or when either party says the sex wasn't consensual. The bill was introduced by State Senator Scott Wiener, a San Francisco Democrat. The law ends discrimination by treating LGBTQ young people the same way that the straight young people have been treated since 1944. This seems like, oh, not a big deal. That's how they want to frame it. This is a customization. We're going to start passing laws now.
Trump, I know you have to reflexively oppose everything the American right focuses on, right? Like everything. But do you really have to do that when it comes to child sex trafficking? Can you check your pathological type opposition to all things right wing and just maybe just lay down your arms for, I don't know.
It's called TDR, Trump Derangement Syndrome. And sadly, I don't want to tie Trump to everything, but sadly this TDR has started to apply, even with Trump out of office, to most things that the right-wingers are like, hey, what is going on? Why are we changing laws about having sex with children? Let's expand the definition because we got to include anal and oral, because when you're banging a 14-year-old, it should be okay not just to put your penis in her vagina, or his whatever, but also in their bum hole and their mouth. We want them airtight. So let's get legislation on the books. Johnson, draft this up. Say it's okay to make them airtight as long as you're no older than 10 years older than the 14-year-old person that you are having sex with. All right. I'll sign that as soon as it's ready. Thanks a lot.
No, one issue, like just one issue. Can you just like take it easy? I mean, Rolling Stone, Guardian, QAnon adjacent film seducing America. That was the Rolling Stone headline. Or that might have been the Guardian, or the Rolling Stone and Guardian.
Such fucking bullshit. After Epstein, after Fuck Island, after Ghislaine Maxwell, and the list of people that stayed at Epstein's home, and the list of people that rode on his jet, those people are well informed. Don't believe what they wanted to. Oh, these guys didn't know. They know way more than you think. These people are not dumb. How do you think they made billions of dollars? You think they're stupid? You think they made billions of dollars by being easily tricked into doing things? No. They're the ones that trick other people. They are the manipulators. They are the puppet masters. Don't be stupid.
Yeah, but that was the title. You are correct.
Miles Klee for Rolling Stone.
Yeah, and so maybe you could just like take an afternoon off. I mean, you guys love doing weed a lot. Like, why don't you just like smoke weed and like take like this is not a necessary article.
Go do some weed.
Right? Sound of Freedom is a superhero movie for dads with brainworms. Like,
yeah,
okay,
this
that's
is fucking crazy.
First of all, it's a true story. It's a heroic story. It's a beautiful film.
I was gonna speak about this separately, but they're doing the work for me. I love it. They're pulling it up. The headlines. Just search "Sound of Freedom." Just search it and look up and just see what the headlines are saying. And it's shit like this, QAnon this, conspiracy that, bullshit, brainworms. You're an idiot if you believe this. That's how they're talking to people. I mean, they're trying to insult you into not paying attention to this. And don't let that happen, you know? Get some thicker skin, you know? Toughen up, Buttercup.
It's really successful. Maybe we could all agree that, okay, we have different politics, but I don't know, like moving children across state lines and prostituting them for rape and for money is probably evil. Like, no, you're QAnon. Well, hold on. Like, do you understand what you're doing? Yeah. I mean, can you break out of your muscle memory automatic opposition that if someone on the right says something, I must oppose it? I try my best to do this, right? To not do this, right? If I see something on the left, like if Bobby Kennedy says something I like, I'm going to speak out. I encourage everyone in the audience, regardless of your politics, this right here is the most destructive operating behavior in the entire country. And when people on the right do it, it's bad. People on the left. People on the right don't do it as much. They just don't, because I think they tend to be more intellectually honest because they have to constantly prove their stances and beliefs. But this right here, what does this accomplish? Where you're bashing a movie that 8 years ago, Patrick, 10 years ago, the country that we used to have 10 years ago, people be like, oh, cool film. Let's go bring our families. But now it instantly has to politicize things. And people say, oh, Charlie, why are we so divided? Because Rolling Stone politicizes things that should have widespread agreement unless you're a pedophile. Unless you are a pedophile, and I'm not suggesting this author is, but unless you are a pedophile, you should probably support Sound of Freedom.
Charlie, you're 1 million.
Scientifically, we can't prove that he's not. So, I mean, a little thesis would be that anyone who is writing crap like that and not supporting protecting children, what's their motive? Ask yourself.
1,000,000% right in what you're saying. And I saw the movie last night. You saw it a week ago, less than a week ago. You recommended it. We talked about this the other day with Lauren Chen.
Yep.
And there's probably someone up on an upcoming podcast, possibly this weekend, that we can even bring this up to. But you're absolutely right. I'm in downtown Miami, not exactly far right wing, MAGA country. Not exactly far left either.
No,
Cuban community, Republican.
It's a great, beautiful
very
city.
Purple city here in Miami.
Great. Terrific place.
All sorts of shapes and colors are at the movie. Everyone jaws dropped, shocked, holy shit. So if I didn't know about the headlines ahead of time, now that I'm seeing these headlines as just a reasonable, moderate person, I'm like, what the fuck are they thinking? What is dads with brainworms?
I believe that what they're thinking is that they're conflating this movie as being an attack on the LGBTQ sexualization movement, the sexualization of children, as you're passing laws about having sex with children and you're changing the term pedophile to minor attracted person, and you're trying to make this a more normal thing. Hey, listen, everybody thinks teens are hot, you know? Like, look at the porn. It's all step this, stepdaughter that. Grandpa bangs, 18-year-old whatever. I mean, there is an obsession with the threshold culturally. Human beings are obsessed with that 18-year-old just finally legal. Well, if you have the power, and you don't believe the laws apply to you, then you might want early access. You might want VIP treatment and gain access to these lusted after young people before anybody else. I'm a billionaire, so I got early permission to go here. Let's just change the laws. Let's just softly move the standard through legislation. I'll pay for this to change because I don't want to get in trouble. I mean, that's pretty clearly what I believe is going on, and why the reaction is so strongly against this is the same people that are getting legislators to pass these laws also pay for these articles, these sponsored content. A lot of times journalists are writing an article and it's bought and paid for by someone with a political bias. It's not honest journalism.
QAnon, it's a movie of vilified, disgusting, vile people, and trafficking
which does
children,
happen. Yes,
and selling them into sexual slavery. Period. Full stop.
Yeah,
this is not a political agenda.
Be political.
Nothing.
And so, but Rolling Stone is like attacking us as dads with brainworms. Look at a QAnon tinged thriller.
So, do you know who that Miles Cleese? He's a weirdo, by the way. They showed up photos of his profile. But you know what's crazy in this situation? The left doesn't care. Do you know who does care, Charlie? Criminals, like people that are in jail. Like Larry Nassar just got stabbed 6 times. The ex gymnastics guy. These people don't give a shit. But criminals who are in there for
criminals have to have a code of conduct, otherwise it's just free for all. So organized crime, these people still do have virtues. That's kind of left mainstream society, being virtuous and having principles and discipline. You're supposed to let go of all those things. Like if you want to date a woman who doesn't want to have a child, you're a bigot. You should be in on the blended families. You shouldn't want someone who doesn't have kids with other guys. Anything that you do that stands up for some principles that you want to live your life by, or things that you want, you're supposed to get rid of that and just accept what we fucking give to you, because you're just a piece of shit.
For beating people up or burglary. They find your ass and they hold you accountable.
And that goes to show exactly what Aristotle argued, which that there's a hierarchy to the good and there's a hierarchy to the bad, right? And even if someone's like in jail for embezzling money, or like they even know the most vile scum are the pedophiles and the traffickers. So you think about it, like you make a really interesting point. Prisoners, again, I'm not defending the stabbing of Larry Nassar.
Me neither.
Shouldn't happen. But he is the scum of the earth, and I believe he'll go into the fire of hell unless he repents in front of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. I really believe that. But like even they are like, no.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I might have, I don't know, shot up like a drive-by shooting or like robbed a bank.
Or robbed the bank.
But
don't mess with the kids.
No.
Yup.
So the morality of a prison gang is clearer than the morality of Rolling Stone.
Wow. Yes.
Brilliant.
And I've heard that multiple times from people who I know have been in and out.
That is like the strongest point I've heard.
They'll kill you.
If they find out that's the reason you're in jail, not murder,
you're dead.
No.
You're dead.
Not criminal activity,
no.
none of that. They find out that you're raping children, they will come for you in prison.
And mind you, you know what the story was, Charlie, that Larry Nassar was in the prison and Wimbledon. They wanted to watch Wimbledon. He's like, let's put on the women's. And the guy stabbed the shit out of him. So I salute that guy. I don't care. He got to get paid.
Yeah.
I don't support the vigilante stabbing of people in prisons. However, I will say this. Prisons.
Here's Operation Underground Railroad. Here's the stats, and they've tried to debunk this, but you can't argue with fact. They've saved approximately 6,000 children through donations, and Tim Ballard quit his job with the federal government to pursue this because he couldn't properly go after these people while he was employed by the government because they wouldn't prioritize it in the manner that he was seeing that it needed to be prioritized. So
I don't know how deep you want to go into this. Prisons are super interesting pictures into the state of nature, right? So we're always asking, like, what are people like in their natural habitat? So what does prison have? Well, you don't have to work. You have all your meals provided for you. You have room and board. So what happens in prison? People naturally associate with people who look like them. So we're naturally tribal people, right? You naturally form into communities where you other the other people.
That's also for survival in many cases.
No, of course it is. But it also just happens without any sort of central planning,
Yes.
right? Whites with whites, Hispanics with Hispanics, blacks with blacks. I'm not defending it. It's just interesting from an observational standpoint, but also that there's a moral code that comes in where even the people who are locked up for life that have done things that we would consider to be against civil society standards, they say, nuh-uh. That in the state of nature, you do not need to go to Harvard to know. You don't need to go to Stanford to know that raping children is evil.
Even the bad people know that, is what you're saying.
Well, no, like
basically.
even in the state of nature, like reduce down the person that you and I would be like, okay, like you shouldn't have robbed those 30 cars, like, or whatever you did,
Yes.
right? They then they have a line that thou shalt not.
even the worst of us know that it's wrong. So what does that make the people that are pushing this agenda? What are they?
What a point!
I love that.
What a point, right? When you think about that, like, listen, there's a certain moral code. You did that, no problem. Everybody gangs up against you.
Everybody.
But that in the state of nature, what it goes to show is that there's something fundamental in our soul that says children are off limits, and yet Rolling Stone does not subscribe to that.
You're saying there's a hierarchy of evil, and that's at the top of the list.
Of course, I believe in the better word is gradations, right? Gradations of sins. That, for example, stealing a pencil is nowhere near raping a child. Like, it's different universes. I believe that epistemologically and theologically and religiously, and I think we all agree that morally. But I just want to reemphasize the point that the prison gang is thinking more clearly in terms of good or evil or right and wrong than the mainstream.
And by the way, and if it's the male sex offenders, look how they're wired. Look at these guys. This is a Telegraph story. Male sex offenders faking trans identities to move to women's prisons.
Brilliant.
Okay? Research backed by Ministry of Justice suggests that male sex offenders are
This was a joke I heard 2 fucking years ago, and now this is fucking real. I mean, as a man, I'm tempted. I don't have to change anything, right? I'm tempted to just change my license to a female, identify as female, because it puts me in a protected class. It makes me a minority. I mean, I'm just not that type of person, but it is like the more they incentivize it, the more I'm like, well, fuck it. But I just can't. I can't be part of this whole. In spite of the benefits that you get, I just can't. I can't be part of this. This is the things that I see them pushing for are completely contrary to how I am going to live whatever amount of life I have on this planet.
pretending to be transgender in order to be transferred to women's prisons. Inmates who fake transitioning see it as a way to lower their risk and secure a place in female prison state. There were 168 legally male trans women prisoners in England and Wales, with only 6 in women's prisons and the remainder in men's prisons. Men jailed for sexual offenses are twice as likely to identify as trans women who than those jailed for other types of offenses. The Ministry of Justice has introduced stricter rules after the controversy surrounding the placement of a transgender convict convicted of raping 2 women in an all-female prison. The study reveals concerns about fakers posing a threat to reputation of genuine transgender prisoners and limit resources available in custody. You know what this is? Bad policies eventually get exposed. Hypocrisy gets exposed. And now they have to sit there and try to argue and defend this, and they can't. How are you going to defend this? You can't defend an argument like this. What do you think about when you hear a story like this?
Oh, I mean, look, I have very strong opinions on the trans thing, but it's not going to stop, right? I mean, so of course they're going to well, first of all, the headline says male sex offenders faking trans identities. All trans identities are fake. So I don't understand what you mean faking. Like, it's all fake. You're not what you wish to be. You are what you are. Okay?
Such a good point.
So, but yeah, I mean, so they're trying, I mean, this old idea, it used to be kind of a joke, right?
I mean, common sense, right? You're dealing with prisoners. They're liars. They're cheaters. You're going to treat them suddenly like they're being genuine about this one aspect of their personality. They are looking for a way to violate the rules. Of course they're going to use this loophole. And so are people in the real world, this is like the canary in the cage. You know, if you want to see an experiment of how this plays out, let it play out in the worst ecosystem where the people inside of it have the worst possible human impulses. And say to yourself, okay, there's going to be a lesser extent of this that happens out in the real world. So if you are someone who is offended at the idea that a biological male who hasn't had his penis removed going into a locker room with young women who are much weaker and less physically capable than they are, and nothing bad's ever going to happen as a result of that, you are delusional.
Of, oh yeah, I would want to become a woman so I could go in the female locker room. Well, it's not a joke. It's now policy. And this is a social contagion. I don't fall under this, and you guys obviously don't. I hope not either, which is, are you going to reaccommodate all of society for people's deep-seated mental problems? No, that's a really bad idea. You should not change customs. You should not change rules. You should not change protections of the innocent or women because people are having issues with their own existence or their own identity. Period. And yet we're seeing that not just in prisons, but in sports and in schools. And so you could tell a lot by a society about what do people do with power. Okay, so if you're in charge of a society, do you use that power to protect people that are not as strong as you?
Yeah.
Or do you use that power to then terrorize people that are not as strong as you? Almost every society that has ever existed uses power for tyranny or authoritarian means. The West was built on this idea that we are going to intervene to protect those that can't protect themselves. It's a profound idea. It's a Christian idea, right? That I care about my neighbor. Love your neighbor as yourself. Leviticus 19. Jesus said the two most important things: love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, and then love your neighbor as yourself. That teaching built the West. Love your neighbor as yourself. Therefore, if there's someone, for example, in a wheelchair, and somebody goes by and just like throws them onto the street, you should go to jail for that. Like that. But you look at it through a Darwinistic secular lens. Why? Why not? What's wrong with that? Survival of the fittest. Like, no, you should not be able to use your power to exploit, harm, damage somebody that does not have the same strength as you. In fact, it's morally incumbent on the people who do have the strength. I use strength as a broad term, not just physical strength, but I do mean it in this sense. And yes, men are stronger than women. There are some women that are stronger than men, but generally, bone density, testosterone, muscle mass, like we really have to prove this right now. So don't be surprised when male predators that have deep-seated mental problems want to go into women's prisons to rape them.
And get them pregnant. There was an issue a couple months ago. They were getting them pregnant.
But it's just like this. I mean, again, we live in Narnia in some ways. It's like this really weird existence where 5 years ago, Patrick, when you and I sat down at Turning Point USA's Young Women's Leadership Summit, these feminazis were screaming in my ear about, oh my gosh, men are around the corner, always wanting to rape me, and Kavanaugh's a gang rapist, and everyone's Harvey Weinstein. And 5 years later, they're like, but if Harvey Weinstein identifies as a woman, progress.
Yeah. But here's a question for everybody here. So all of us here. So you know how you just said 5 years ago trans wasn't a thing, right? And we're not talking about it.
But it wasn't what it is now.
It's not what it is today, right? Okay. So, women's sports. You saw. Can you pull up the picture about the what was it? The Netherlands women.
So this is the other borderline criminal behavior that they're bringing up right now. So you've got prisoners raping women in prison, obviously, but you've also got men that cannot compete with other men in sports that I truly believe are seeking glory by changing their sex to specifically compete against women. I mean, I think if you're going to allow that, then adults should be allowed to compete in high school sports as well. Just let everybody go in there. So I think that Michael Phelps, if he wants to take the weekend to go compete in a high school sporting event, the fact that he's no longer in high school doesn't matter. Your gender doesn't matter. Your age doesn't matter. Your race doesn't matter. Nothing matters. We don't care about anything. I mean, why limit ourselves?
women.
Oh yeah, no, that's correct. Miss Netherlands.
Miss
Miss
Netherlands
Netherlands
beat out this it was
on
a
who
trend.
she beat out. Like who she beat. You're at a nightclub. You got two choices. You're 24 years old. You're single.
How dark is it,
Who are
Pat?
you picking?
How
right?
dark is the club?
But can you get the pictures of the two girls right next to each other? I don't know if you have that or not.
By the way, I'm loving that I'm seeing this for the first time.
I-
live
you
on
haven't
air.
seen
I've
it?
not seen
I
it.
actually
I'm
put
loving
this on my Instagram.
Okay,
if you
so
go to
then
my
let me do-
Instagram,
yeah, go-
I have the contract
That's her.
posted.
That's her smiling with getting the crown.
That's the man, not her.
Oh my bad. I apologize. That's the guy that just won Miss.
Vinny can't even tell, bro.
Sorry, bro. Just out there.
So Rob, why don't you just go to his Instagram? I'm gonna go pull it up because you have to see this. Okay,
Yeah, it's on my Instagram. I did a picture by picture.
that's the one you want to show. You want to show the one that's the picture by picture.
Netherlands is woke, huh?
Yeah.
Netherlands went for it.
Are you sure it's on your Instagram or it's on your Twitter?
Scroll down. See the beauty
Yeah,
queen,
there it is.
and then I believe it's 2 pictures in a row. I could be wrong. Well, you got to
Here, let
log
me
in.
see if you got it or not. Because you
You
guys
can open
have
it.
to see
If you
this.
open it in a new tab, it usually you're.
Here, Rob, I'll just text
And you
it to
never would have thought like Netherlands
I have it
going
right here,
for
bro.
it, huh? I didn't.
They're part of the EU, bro.
Just tell me when you got it. I'm gonna text it to you. You see the picture. The guy on the left
Yep. And
wins.
then try the next one. Try the next photo.
There
I
you
told
go.
ya.
Zoom in.
What?
Check this
That's
out.
my
Oh
Instagram.
my.
The one
God.
to the left wins.
You
The
neuro-
girl on the right is the
neurotic
runner-up.
freak.
Who are the judges? That's the real question.
So you're at a nightclub.
yeah.
The two, one's to your left, one's to your right, Vinny.
How many drinks?
One
Pat?
says to you.
How many
one,
drinks am I
One
in?
says to you.
Yeah.
Hello, Vinny. The other one says to you. Hi, Vinny. Which one are you going to be picking? Do you realize the guy to the left wins Miss Netherlands?
How many Long Island iced teas have I had?
It doesn't matter how many
No, it's
freaking
ridiculous. It's
virgin
ridiculous.
daiquiri, whatever you're going to have.
No, the girl on the right
It's
is gorgeous.
unacceptable.
It's unbelievable. Like,
Can we-
it's unbelievable.
Can we punch in on the number one? The girl on the right is
beautiful.
absolutely gorgeous. If you're ever come to South Beach, Florida, we'd love
Please,
to host you here.
Adam Sosnick.
Absolutely gorgeous. Punch it on the left because it's a sort of a different perspective on the picture. Can you punch in, Rob?
That's as far in as I can go.
That's intentional.
Please
They don't
stay
want you
that
to
far
punch
away.
out
I don't
too
want
much.
you to go.
all right, that's
But
intentional.
here's the
Yeah,
but the
it's not
point
even
is, if
close,
you
guys.
actually, while we're talking, try to find a picture that zoomed in a little bit more to see the
The actual.
Just
when-
let's see the Adam's apple, buddy.
when you're thinking about, when you're going through this, Rob, you find it. But here's what I want you to think about. You know how some ideas create momentum and then it's short-lived and it disappears, or some toys, or some games, or some whatever. Right? This happens all the time. Hey, remember in New York they used to do the punch the person and then you would run away.
Oh yeah, the knocking out.
Yeah,
people.
zoom in a little bit more. Zoom in a little.
But what's the I'm sorry. Can I interrupt you?
Yeah,
I'm
go
sorry.
for it.
Look at the women applauding, and I have a whole theory on this.
wanna
if you
hear
want to
What's
get
that?
into it.
Tell us.
Well, look, Andrew Tate talks about this frequently. By the way, your interview was great. I didn't want.
It's just crazy that men say, "Oh, let's give women rights. Let's give them all the rights we have, and then let's jump in to their ecosystem and compete with them, and take it. Here you go. By the way, now we're gonna win Woman of the Year. Now we're gonna win women's swimming records. Now we're gonna punch you in the face. You want to be a boxer? Well, let's throw hands. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's get rid of all the barriers of like, oh, let's treat women with respect. No, let's punch women and compete against them and just rob them of the female culture. I think we're absolutely trashing it, and it's a hugely unpopular thing to say out loud, but I just don't give a shit.
Watch all 5 hours, but you've done a great job, Patrick. Congratulations
Thank you.
to you covering all that. Is that men are disagreeable by nature. We are the ones that say no. Women are agreeable by nature. They want to be liked.
Yeah.
That right there is a feminine culture gone awry. Agreeableness by all means. Agreeableness even to allow men to metaphorically rape our competitions. This is a metaphorical rape of Miss Netherlands, is what it is. I am a man and I'm forcibly inserting myself without consent into your competition. I'm sorry to be so graphic, but that's what this is. And they're like, oh yeah, progress. Applauding?
Imagine the outrage.
But imagine for a second if it was an all-male competition.
Yep, that's just where I was
wouldn't
going.
Put up with that crap.
The guys in the
Second.
back will be like, "What the is going on?
We would
This is
step
ridiculous."
up. Like, who are you,
Yes.
you little punk? Because this is why when a society goes too feminine, it can also become too tyrannical.
But how long is this going to last, though? So again,
The only reason that hasn't happened is because it's just not possible for them to come in our ecosystems and compete. It's just not possible. What ecosystem? I mean, intellectually, sure, but physically, trying to emulate a beautiful human male body, good luck. There are some men out there that are built like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Look at him. There's no woman on the planet with a 55-gallon drum of testosterone. There's no woman on the planet that could recreate him when he was winning Mr. Olympia. I mean, one of the most flawless human beings to ever exist, and an absolute powerhouse mentally as well. He's succeeded in everything he's touched on, except for resisting banging his Spanish maid. But we don't talk about that.
Go back to it. Listen, the question I'm asking is, remember that one thing you stood on it and you would go, you would spin, whatever that thing was, that one wheel thing. What was
Segway?
it?
The stand
Segway.
By the way, for about 3 years, 5 years, that thing was hot, right?
Paul Blart Mall Cop.
We
he
can
did
talk about a lot of things, trendy products that disappeared after 2, 3, 4, 5 years, right?
Yeah.
And you're no longer using it.
Vaccines.
How long is this going to go before they themselves, women, like, you know what it's going to take? It's going to take a feminist girl from the left who's a hardcore liberal to come out and say, guys, this is too much, because let me tell you what happened to my daughter. I'm not with it.
Yep.
So it will only last as long as we allow it to last, because it is a pathogen of evil, and we must be intolerant of this crap. There should be no openness to this, period. But I'm not as bullish on it ending soon, because unlike the Segway, this is supported by the CDC. This is supported by, and by the way, vastly billions of dollars to be made by Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Moderna, not just on the surgery, but on the annuities of other drugs that will be made. This is a cash cow for the most powerful companies in the world. You can look up the map, and there used to be two gender clinics 40 years ago in the world.
A lot of these surgeries require a lot of aftercare, and obviously you're on hormones that you don't naturally produce enough of, so you are a customer for life, just what he's saying. And some of the surgeries, if they don't go that well, you can have pretty substantial ongoing wound care, and then you have to go back in for surgery to correct, so this is not like a simple procedure. If you have insurance, this is huge amounts of money that is going to flow into these medical companies and this whole ecosystem. It's an economy that did not exist, and they are inventing it and rolling it out and trying to get mass adoption going, so that there is profit in this, big profits. If they can get even 10% of 8 billion people, that's a lot of customers. That's a lot of money.
Western world. Now there are well over 500 to 600 in America alone. You could fact check me on this, but I believe it's at least 500 or 600.
Probably grew by 5, just us sitting here.
Yes. And by the way, if you look at, in the 60s or 70s, there were some, and then there are none some. I don't know what the number is now. You could look it up.
It's going to be a lot.
It's for at least 500 or 600 nationwide. So there's a whole cottage industry, Patrick. But here's the biggest problem, is the social contagion. It's like the lab leak from Wuhan, right? It's out, and so how do we actually inoculate ourselves against it? The transmission is through TikTok, where they are preying on young girls that have puberty anxiety, that are misdiagnosing their puberty anxiety for gender dysphoria. And then they go into a predatory pediatric environment where the questions are all wrong. The questions are, well, do you think you're a man? Would you like to talk to somebody about whether you're a man? Instead of, I understand you're having anxiety about where you're at. Let's just take pause and allow yourself to develop. Puberty is actually the solution here. It's not the problem. What do? They give them puberty blockers. Mm-hmm. They slow down the thing that actually, once it comes to completion and your hormones balance, and you're like, okay, my estrogen and testosterone levels naturally kind of even out, then we're clear. How long, Patrick? I have no idea. But we, as clear, courageous Americans, need to stand up against this, and it is tyrannical in nature. That's got to be an outdated map. And there was one more recently.
And Charlie, you said TikTok, and what a great segue just of how China has just been owning our asses. They obviously own TikTok. They're infiltrating. They've already done it.
Yeah, I think this started with boots on the ground, but mechanisms like that make it so that they're in your bedrooms, they're in your pocket. Anywhere that you carry your phone and pull TikTok out, the Chinese government Every single company in China is ultimately owned by the Chinese government, including Alibaba, the largest. Um, and Jack Ma said some things wrong against the Communist Party, and he disappeared for 6 months. Unlike someone like Elon Musk or Bill Gates in the U.S., who can say whatever they want with impunity. China does not allow competing power structures. If they recognize that corporations are getting too much power, they have the capability to come in and be like, no, 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 this is our corporation. We allow you to be the steward of it. But if you continue doing things we don't like, we're going to take it. We'll assign someone else to manage it who is on board with the party values. So if their goal is to replace us as the world superpower, one of the easiest ways to do that without growing their own power is to diminish ours, and seems to be very effective.
They're training their they train their kindergarten kids for combat. I'm not even joking. They put them in war boot camps. They spy on China's just, it's not a gun shooting war. It's a slowly infiltrating us, and that's one of the main ones is the trans and making men.
You also
weak.
said that you're not bullish on basically the stopping.
No.
The biggest thing is,
I am.
Okay.
And I'll tell you guys here in a minute.
Yeah,
Go
well,
ahead.
I want to.
hope so.
No,
I'm
I'll
not
give you mine, but I
necessarily-
want you to
Yeah,
go.
well, I want to give you kudos
Yeah.
because you just did a whole episode on this, the dark history of the LGBT
That's the one.
community, right?
That's the map. I'm sorry. Just keep going.
All good. But the key word in that is the T, guys. Nobody's got a problem with the L's, the G's, the B's. The T is where, all right, what's happening right now? That's a totally different agenda.
But by the way,
you said that 20% of Gen Z, that's what we're talking about
not
here.
part
The
of
future of
LGBTQ.
America
Yeah.
is not part.
It's
Whereas,
not going to work, guys.
Well,
it's not going to work.
it's trending in the wrong
By
direction.
the way, we
Here-
can argue. This is why we have a debate, and
Yeah.
we point out leaks in our argument, your argument, and we have a good time with this. So can you go to the other one I sent you? I just sent you 2 links in the email. If you can pull up one of them that validates his is the one from Pentagon. If you can pull that up. I don't know if you have it or not. Okay. So the one from Pentagon shows, this is from military.com. So this is not a website that is a second party, third party, or blogger or any of that stuff. It's military.com. It says, here's how much the Pentagon has spent so far to treat transgender troops. The military, you and I are paying for this, okay?
Okay.
Here's how much it's spent, okay? So again, this is what website? Military.com.
Don't be with
the
a B.
Pentagon
Don't be
has
with a B.
spent The Pentagon has spent $15 million in the past 5 years to treat 1,892 transgender troops, including $11.5 million for psychotherapy and $3.1 million for surgeries, according to Defense Department data provided to military.com. And then you can see up to 243 gender reassignment surgeries performed on the military personnel since 2016. 50 of them was in 16. 193 occurred from January 1st, 2018 to 2019. And then 2 years after President Donald Trump announced via Twitter, he would bar transgender individuals from serving in the military. Okay, so now you see this, you're like, wait a minute, I paid this much.
I don't care about the money, and I believe the troops should have health care, but the issue is that good order and discipline being squared away, all these things that are supposed to be part of the fabric of the military. I mean, women can't wear their hair however they want. Men have to have grooming standards. You can't have more than a certain amount of facial hair, or hair can't be messy. You got to have your cover with you. I don't think that removing or changing your genitalia has anything to do with military service, and it actually has a diminishment of good order and discipline, because you are creating rebellion in the ranks. Oh, well, how come I have to wear my mustache this way, but someone else can change their whole gender and appearance and have a whole different set of standards, because women in the military have a different set of standards. So if you're a man in the military and you're having trouble making physical standards, I would say one of the easiest ways, without you actually trying to improve your physical conditioning, would be just to say, oh, actually, I'm going to transition to be a female, and then I'm going to be held to lower push-up count, slower running times, slower and less of everything, and won't be required to go in active combat situations in some cases. So I don't know. It's just, it could be an avenue for cowards to serve and not have to really serve.
Yeah, taxpayer, you paid for it. Now, one argument I'll make to you how dumb this is, I want you to think about this. I want you to think you're the enemy. And the enemy, Xi, Putin, gets a report. Hey, sir, I have a report to show you, deeply concerning. What's that? It's a massive threat. America has a new secret weapon on how they're going to take us down. What's that? Do they have a new SEAL Team 6?
Yeah,
no. No, is it a new nuclear? No. They're investing in transgender surgeries.
What?
And these guys are they're even better than Navy SEALs. No way. You think Putin's sitting there saying that's exactly what's going on with America?
SEAL Team 69. You know what I'm saying?
And now,
They're
let me give the flip
undercover.
side. Now watch this. Who supported kids staying home and not going to school? Who supported it? Who supported
The
it?
left for the
left.
most
The
part.
left. And General Surgeon Vivek comes out saying, no, we need to stay home and all this other stuff. Here's what we need to do because we can't risk the lives of all these elderly. Perfect. Give the other article that I just texted you. This is new. By the look what website it is. Go to what website it is. It's important to show the website all the way at the top. This is the
.gov.
U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
.gov.
This is who came to our office when COVID happened, if you remember.
In Dallas.
And in Dallas, they wanted to find us. They said, you guys covered all the things because Ian did a great job back then. So go back to the article on the bottom and see what happens. This is May 3rd. Put the date on when it is at the top so they can see it. May 3rd, 2023. New Surgeon General advisory raises alarm about the devastating impact of the epidemic of loneliness and isolation in the United States.
Hello?
No shit, Sherlock. You pulled this off, right? So here's the point. This is what's going to happen. Wait till one of
It's the division. I mean, this might be relevant to COVID, but I truly believe that it's the division. It's the replacement of face-to-face interaction with social media. I think none of us would be able to count the number of times you've been in a room with other people and you feel like you're alone because everybody's looking down at their device talking to people somewhere else. They're not even present in the room with you. We're all just glued to the phone. You're not interested in the conversation that's being had, if there is any. Let me just tune out, instead of engaging and adding some input and changing the dialogue, just opt out. So of course you're going to be lonely and disconnected and not have any social connections because all you do is look at your stupid phone, and that is not a way to build human relationships with anybody.
their daughters gets violated by a transgender man and it's deep in their house, and then they're going to realize, guys, I don't give a flying you know what. This just crossed the line. This is insanity. And then they're going to unify and come together and say, we have to create a league. Trans, you want to compete against each other? Go ahead and compete against each other. But the level of, one of the questions I want to ask one of our friends that's coming on next Saturday, him and I have been exchanging. No one's going to believe that this guy's coming on the podcast. Next Saturday.
Oh, next Saturday. Gotcha.
I can't wait to have this conversation with him. It's a guy I actually really like, and it's probably one of the top 5 biggest liberal TV show hosts out there. I'm excited about having him on. Okay. So
You're going to know his name.
You know what the question's going to be? Here's what the question's going to be. The question's going to be, what do we have in common? What do Republicans and OG Democrats, Kennedy Democrats, Clinton Democrats, now I'm not talking Biden Democrats, what do Clinton Democrats and JFK Democrats have in common with Republicans? What is it? What do we have? I bet there is so many things we agree on. Is it fair to say?
I mean, I love RFK, who's the nephew of JFK, anti-establishment, believes in small government, small taxes, personal freedoms, by extension of the small government, small taxes, small military, leading the world not through military might but by being a beacon of economic impact. This is how America used to operate. We weren't invading everywhere. We were going into countries that needed assistance and giving them economic assistance because we were a powerhouse. But as our economy has slowly turned to rot, and we outsourced it in the 90s, which seemed like a good idea at the time, but wound up taking a ton of middle class jobs, and the only thing that we got was cheap TVs and cheap electronics in exchange. But you lost all those good paying jobs. I would have rather kept those jobs and had to pay for more expensive TVs with well paying jobs than having those jobs go overseas and now have shit incomes that you can pay for the cheap TVs and electronics and junk that comes from China, but our economy is no longer based on producing goods, everyday goods. It's producing basically war, sadly. And that's why we need to keep jumping back into war over and over and over again. So the way that America is headed is just we're going to continue to be at war forever until we address that underlying issue. And then you've also got the things that are happening, the deterioration of the fabric of society is being shown to you by the number of mass shootings. And the mass shooting is a representation of someone who is so helpless, feels that they can affect so little change, that they're giving up and making one final statement because they believe that's the only thing that the government is going to see, listen to. They're not going to get paid attention to unless they do something this extreme. Your options are exhausted. You become desperate. Desperate people do crazy things. So no one actually wants to address, like, why are all these mass shootings happening? It's because of desperation in America. Desperation and depression and loneliness and all these things where people just feel like my life is not going to go anywhere. This is a hopeless situation. I'm never going to be able to dig myself out of here and have anything that I want. It's just over. And once you stop caring, people start exploring their options when they're in that situation. Some people use it as motivation for positive fight and say, I don't care anymore. I'm going to do this stuff. You know, I'm going to talk about it. I don't care if I get censored and yelled at and insulted. It's better than existing here in silence and just suffering alone. Or, you know, some people don't have that capability and choose something very, very negative and violent like that. But banning guns is not going to fix it. There's a reason that this has become a recent problem as the culture is completely shifted, and it wasn't a problem previous to a lot of these progressive agendas being shoved down our throats. You're losing your freedom. You're being forced to accept this shit that you don't want to accept. Some people are not handling it well at all, and it shows.
That you want to make sure your kids are protected. Yes, I do too. Great. Is it fair to say that you want to be able to go to any church you want to go to? If you're an atheist, no problem. You're a Scientologist, no problem. You're Christian, Muslim, go for it. Practice whatever you want. You agree that? I do too. Mm-hmm. Right. Is it fair to say that you don't want to pay so much taxes that the incentive goes away for your kids to want to go build a business one day, have their dreams become? Yeah, I'm with that. Okay. Is it fair that we both want the country to be safe? I do. Maybe you don't want to spend as much money. Maybe I don't want to spend that much money. But we both agree. Yes. How about the transgender stuff? Can I ask why we can't agree on this? You know, I'm watching a video of Serena Williams. We've all seen it. She's on David Letterman. He's trying to get her to say, you know, she says, no, Andy Murray called me and said, let's play a match together. And Serena says, honestly,
why we can't agree on this? We can't even talk about it. You just wind up getting insulted if you try to have any sort of intelligent, cogent conversation with anybody who is on the other side and say, hey, let's unpack this. You know, let's talk about this and why you would want to support these ideas. A lot of times when you do try to ask people, I see videos of people going to some of these events and saying, what is it about this that appeals to you? And it's just a shouting match of like, get out of here, you scumbag, you scumlord, you're just trolling, this and that. They don't actually answer the question because it's very difficult to defend some of these positions. And I mean, I would love anyone who's watching this, if you don't agree with me, I want to hear your opinions, and I'm not going to insult you. I don't use personal insults as a part of debating. Okay, so if I am wrong, challenge me. Tell me what I'm wrong about. Have a conversation with me. Let's talk about it, because that's the only way out of this. This ship is going toward the rocks, and if somebody doesn't start, you know, turning this thing around, America is doomed, at least in the current form where we enjoy the highest standard of living in the known world.
Andy, I don't want to play against you because it'll be a 5-minute match. He'll beat me 6-0, 6-0. It won't even be close. I don't want to compete against men because I'll lose. I want to compete against women. It's not even fair. And then David Letterman and the audience is quiet because you know what? And by the way, she's a liberal. Her husband, Armenian guy, he's a liberal. They're not Republicans, but she's saying logic. Eventually, this is the one, if you want to play this and look how uncomfortable it gets. Everyone's seen it here. Can you make it
6-0,
bigger and
6-0.
impressive? Watch what happens here with her.
Well, actually, it's funny because Andy Murray, he was been joking about myself and him playing a match, and I'm like, Andy, seriously, like, are you kidding me? Because for me, tennis and men's tennis and women's tennis are completely almost two separate
She's
sports.
a Democrat.
So I'm like, if I were to play Andy
she has
Murray, I
common
would
sense.
lose 6-0, 6-0 in 5 to 6 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, because no, it's true. It's true. It's a
honestly, really?
completely
No one's reacting.
It's a completely different sport. The men are a lot faster,
And she's an absolute specimen of a woman. Probably one of the most amazing female athletes overall, for sure. But even she is willing to admit that there are fundamental differences between the sexes. I would say it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 90% of men can beat all women. And there's a small fraction of percent of women who could compete with that 90% of men. But there's no woman that can beat the 1% or the top 10% of men. It just doesn't exist, you know. Like put a woman in the ring with Floyd Mayweather or Mike Tyson. There's no woman on earth that could compete with prime Mike Tyson, even if, again, they're on a 55-gallon drum of testosterone. They don't have the bone structure. They're just not a man, and it's okay. Women are beautiful. I love women. They're the most amazing. They create life. Just being a woman is absolutely incredible. They go through so much more than men do, and I think that they are equals. I don't want to say they're better because equality is the goal, not for another class to take the reins and be superior to everyone else, which seems to be the way things are going. We got to diminish this other group, diminish men to make women better. No, everyone should be equal. If you're genuinely about equality, that should be your attitude. You shouldn't be yelling at men, telling men to shut up, just like men shouldn't be yelling at women and telling women to shut up. We should be talking with each other like civil, rational, emotionally mature adults. The few of us that are emotionally mature adults.
And they serve harder, they hit harder. It's just a different game. And I love to play women's tennis, and I only want to play girls because I don't want to be
applause.
embarrassed. I would not do the
Zero
tour.
applause.
I wouldn't do
Let it go.
Billie Jean any justice. So Andy, stop it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let you kill me.
Okay.
I'm with you when it comes to
Oh, I'm with you. Oh, okay, David. You sure you're with?
This is old though. Hef.
Yeah.
No, it is.
all-
It's 10 years old. That's
but
not even a
today-
question.
Yeah,
it's,
go ahead.
it's not the point, though.
Yes.
She would say the same thing today, though.
100%.
She would say the same thing today because common sense and logic eventually prevails, because eventually certain communities, like one of the things you said, it's so powerful. The word I've been dealing with lately for myself is tolerance and intolerance. You know, the whole thing about, you know, we Christian, you know, to me, 3 communities are ruining America. It's very easy for me. It's the scared and lazy Republicans, okay?
Sure.
You're not buying Time Magazine. You're not buying, you know, any of this stuff that's available. You're not buying any of these media companies while they buy it. So number 1 is scared and lazy Republicans.
smart.
Number 2 is tolerant Christians.
Yes.
And number 3 is do your thing libertarians. I think those 3 communities are ruining America. But logic and common sense comes out, and Democrats say, "She doesn't kind of make sense. I'm kind of on the same page with you there."
The thing that I have difficulty with is going. So I'm basically anti-government, anti-establishment. So saying that we need to impose even more severe systems of control to push back against this really sucks, because that's not. I don't know if there is a solution without doing that, but I hate it. I don't want the control that's pushing these agendas, and then I don't want another, you know, conservative agenda to push back against it. I just want those things to go away. And I mean these groups, the ones that are do your thing, you know, libertarians and you know, moderates that just we should be able to sort out how to be human and treat each other halfway decently without the government regulating our behavior and telling us what words we can use. That's something that we should work out amongst ourselves. So I don't really agree with the idea that we need to turn this into some sort of dictatorship to to correct the course, and I hope that that's not what's happened, because that will be just as bad as what's going on right now.
So maybe it's America over my political party. Eventually, I think enough people are going to say America over my political party.
Yeah,
America.
I agree. So whether I'm bearish or the trans thing is unique because it's fundamentally predatory on anxiety that's not going to go away with young teenagers. And we have now trained hundreds of thousands of teachers to advance this social contagion. 40% of all Brown kids, 38% of all students at Brown University identify as LGBTQIA+. Okay? 38%. This is the gayest generation in history. Let's just talk.
Why wouldn't you? I just talked about this. You're joining a protected class. You're going to be celebrated. You're going to get love bombed because now you're part of the group. Now you're part of the hive mind. You know, you're buying into it. So of course, this is the goal. This is why the whole thing operates this way. Of course, they want your participation, and of course, they're going to reward you for doing so. It's just common sense. Anyone who's trying to build a movement or organization or anything is going to reward you for joining the team. And this is what is happening. And this is why this continues to snowball and get much bigger than people, even myself, expected it to. I mean, I was watching what was going on in Oregon back in 2010. There was a YouTube channel that was documenting it. I'll get back to you on that. That was but it was basically a school where the students took it over and were telling the dean what to do, and their demands were being met, and it was a crazy one-off, but it turned out to be just the beginning of some of the ideals that are being espoused. There's more avowed Marxists than avowed Republicans in faculty positions on college campuses in the United States of America. So it's all Democrat and communist Marxists. Republicans, either there's very few of them that admit they are, so they're either silent Republicans or I don't know. They're just not there.
You could have your own opinions on the gay thing. I believe in traditional marriage, obviously, but how are you going to like repopulate the species if 40% of your people are, or 38% are gay? Yeah, 38% at Brown University.
Wow.
Are gay.
So this is a high statistic, but the reality is I've seen a little bit about the history of homosexuality going all the way back to Roman times, and there's a school of thought that believes that after a certain point it would be because of reproductive natural selection that the gay traits would not be passed on to the next generation. But the reality is a lot of people have gay people in their family, and they're very, very helpful for the straight people. They often assist in childcare and fostering and nurturing the children. So gay people do have a place amongst the continuation of the human species. They do. And they also, in some cases, especially prior to gay marriage legalization and acceptance, there were a lot of homosexual people that were engaged in straight relationships and only practiced, only were homosexuals in secret. So they oftentimes would have children for most of documented history.
38%. This is a social contagion. So it is accelerating. It's not slowing down. But Patrick, you're right. It could end up slowing down, but it requires a mindset shift. It requires decent, ordinary people to say, okay, I grew up with the temperament of live and let live. I'm not going to allow you to have this trans zealotry continue to spread across the country. This is a war on reality. What you just saw with Serena Williams and David Letterman was a 50-second refreshing clip of reality. The entire project of postmodernism rejects reality. It's you can be whatever you want to be, as you want to be it. Take chemicals, wage war on your own natural design. You get to decide your own existence.
You can just think it in your mind. You don't even have to take chemicals.
No, that's exactly right. And
I'm a billionaire, guys. That's how I identify.
So it really is this simple. And I don't mean to like trivialize this. The new divide in America is team reality against insane neurotic people.
Yes.
It's that simple. if you are on Team Reality, Bobby Kennedy, I think he's great. He lives on Team Reality. Okay, the biggest crime that Bobby Kennedy Jr. has committed is the crime of noticing. Oh wait, why do so many people have autism? Why is our air like harder to breathe? Like why are testosterone rates down? Oh, he's a QAnon conspiracy theorist, far right-wing extremist Kennedy Democrat because he commits the crime of noticing. Noticing is the first step to live in reality. When
Noticing
you don't,
and saying something
yes,
about
then
it.
speaking the truth,
Yes.
which we believe in the Christian tradition is the logos, right? So it's very simple. The West 99% of people in the West used to believe in this, regardless of your religious affiliation. I'm going to notice what's happening around me. I'm going to say what's happening around me, and then we can have a discussion of whether or not that should continue. Now you're not even allowed to notice it. Now it's you're a bigot, you're a terrible person for even mentioning the injustice that is so obviously happening around you.
Yeah, absolute truth. And
So, by the way, have you seen the Gallup poll? Have you seen the Gallup poll that shows in America? I don't know if I'm asking Brandon to say this because this video that we did on LGBTQ, if you've not seen this video, let me tell you.
It's great.
The amount of emails and stuff I got from
Positive
people.
or negative?
95% was positive.
Good.
Saying, I didn't even know this data. You know what was one of the most interesting data points? Brandon, if you can send it to me. If you don't, it's all good. You have it in your notes. It went, not this one, it's another one. He didn't send you the right one. This one everyone's seen. There was one that we had that showed in 1979, they asked, it's a Gallup poll, they asked Americans, what percentage of gays are they gay because they're born that way versus their environment? You know what percentage of Americans in 1979 said you're born gay versus environment?
Less than 15%, probably.
Exactly 13%. Interesting. You're right there, right? You know what the number is today? Here, I got the Gallup poll. I want to show you.
Probably 65%.
I want to say
50,
it's 49%.
Oh, wow.
I want to say,
That's lower than I thought.
yeah, you have to see this Gallup poll. By the way, this link to this Gallup poll, two things. I recommend go watch that LGBTQ video. And two, keep this Gallup poll we're about to put it in the comment section so people can also have it, Rob. I'm texting it to you if you can pull it up because it's different versus when somebody says it versus you see it, gallup.com, that says what this is. And the one I want you to go to where it says, I'm going to listen regardless. Okay, go all the way to the bottom that says what percentage of people were born gay versus their environment. Okay, it's all the way, I think, at the bottom, if you can find this.
Yeah. By the way, Gallup, pretty credible
Very
polling
Very credible.
source. Yeah, so not far
and they've-
right, not far left.
They've
just
also shown that
math.
the country's moving center right. That's another poll they've done recently, which is really interesting.
By the way, he's right. And you know what else they found out, which was kind of weird? This whole thing about born gay versus not born gay. There was another thing that they said about where we were at back in the days on allowing gays to adopt.
So I don't know if they're actually going to get this pulled up, but regardless of which side it supports in this argument, anyone who believes that nature versus nurture is one or the other, so nature would be your genes dictate how you turn out, and nurture would be your environment dictates how you turn out. There's definitely a component to both, all the way down to the point where I moved states, and I feel differently now that I moved to the new state that I live in versus where I lived before. So that didn't change anything except for my environment. I'm still the same person. They haven't yet kidnapped and cloned me and re-released just a copy of me that they fed with the talking points that they want, but that may happen at some point, and then the YouTube channel will probably be a little bit different. But for now, I can testify that if you are hesitant to believe that environment shapes you, I personally, my lived experience is that your environment does shape you. And I see a lot of stuff in myself based on the environment I was raised in and my father and my mother. You know, this is not just genetic. It's lessons that you're taught. It's conversations that you have that shape your mind. And that's why it's so easy for these groups to indoctrinate people, is because nurture is a big part of growing into who you are, and you have to be really careful about who you have around you nurturing your growth. You know, there's a hackneyed saying that is, you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And there is a pretty good degree of truth to that, but it's not that simple.
Children. This one produced the biggest controversy on the questions Back in 1977, it was only 14%. They said they should. Today, it's 75%. If you go all the way to the bottom and type in adopt, if you just Control F adopt, it'll show up. If you just want to type in, there you go. Look at that. 1977, 14% said they should. 77% no, they should not. But in 2019, it's 75% they should.
It's
now,
inverted.
It's inverted, okay? And then you have the other 13% that said they were born or they were not born. The whole point is, and then there was another data that came out with Gallup, which was very interesting, the whole about black liberals versus white liberals.
Yes.
I mean, enlightened gay people who are not going to force their children to become just like them, but are going to give them an environment to grow as they would grow with any nurturing parent who allows them to grow into themselves and figure themselves out. Absolutely. But anyone who's straight or gay, who's going to take a child and turn them into some sort of statement about their political beliefs or an accessory to their politics or agenda, whatever, as evidence. Hey, look, this is proof. You know, I support the trans agenda, and my child is X, Y, and Z, and they've done great with the medical care and all this stuff. And you know, they don't mention the fact that they basically spoon-fed this. You know, they're giving them certain toys to play with. They're dressing them a certain way. They're encouraging certain behaviors instead of allowing the child to bloom without adult bullshit. It's the whole point of childhood, is to be allowed to figure that portion of your life out slowly as you grow and experience the world for the first time.
I don't know if you've seen this one.
No, but black liberals tend to be more socially conservative than white liberals.
By a mile.
Even white conservatives, they're more socially conservative than.
So Republicans, black liberals, white liberals. Just think about those three, okay? Same question. What percentage of gays are born gay versus, you know, their environment, okay? Yeah.
Nature versus nurture.
Republicans say, no, it's your environment. You're not born gay, okay? White liberals, 72% said you're born that way. You know what black liberals was? 30%.
I believe it.
They were 21% away from Republicans and 42% away from white liberals. So if you like this gay versus not born.
So just before we wrap it up, so this is the headlines. I believe this college used to be a lot bigger than this, but I don't care that much. I'm gonna look that up. And then let's pull this over. This is the actual, what is this? 2017. So Evergreen protesters hold admins hostage over demands. And they were asking for white people to leave the campus for data diversity. They were Brett Weinstein and his class who weren't participating in this. The mob showed up with weapons outside the classroom, and there was a confrontation that happened. The campus police couldn't guarantee his safety. Students made threats. They were like waiting for him. I think he rode his bike at the time. I mean, there was an Evergreen student that did a whole expose on this because he was so pissed that he spent all the money on his education here, and then these people were turning it into like a political engine of wokeism. And there were a lot of employers at the time that were like, you know, this was the school that was saying math is racist, and there were students that were petitioning to get passing grades even though they failed the class because math is racist, or this subject is racist, and it's my race made it so I couldn't pass, so you need to just give me the grade that I want, not the grade that I deserve. And the only priority is that you all stay in this space till those demands can happen. So that's the only thing we're concerned about. Protest leader, everyone's health and safety is concerned. Food and water would be provided to them. They were making threats. Bridges City needed to pee. Protesters told them to hold it. The crowd was chanting, "Hey ho, ho, these racist faculty have got to go." Peter Baumer published an open letter expressing solidarity with the protesters, blah, blah, blah. I mean, if you guys want to read about it, it's pretty simple to find. Evergreen protesters. And now here we are. You know, people who said that it wasn't going to go out into mainstream society and this was just college students expressing their freedoms and learning about themselves, well, those people are now in your HR departments and they're setting policy and they're moving into potentially legislative positions because the big money wants these people on this agenda to succeed. So the cream is rising to the top, just like you would expect. Anyway, that's it. You guys take care. Can't wait to talk to you again. I'm not suicidal. I would never kill myself.